England versus Scotland. It finished 38-all and was perhaps the most crazy game I have seen in a very long time. We've seen two wonderful games today. Wales claiming the Grand Slam. Congratulations, Wales, with that win over Ireland. Another great game, wonderful game, for totally different reasons. England versus Scotland. So hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind Driving Maul, your best place rugby predictions and opinion, and I'm joined by Graham from Rugby Forecast. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
Not so bad, not so bad. So, what Rugby Forecast? Obviously, you guys do have an algorithm that that does predictions for games. Does it do predictions during game, in game, or is it just purely beforehand?
It's purely beforehand at the moment. I would like to extend it so that it's live, but unfortunately, getting the data in fast enough and getting live scraping and stuff like that doesn't really. I haven't. My technical skills are that technical skill is beyond me at the moment. So it's one for the future.
I was going to ask you what percentage did you guys run to?
Yeah, well, I saw that the bookies had it at 150 to 1 at halftime, so that will give you a rough estimate of how unlikely that was. I think
that was for the Scottish win, right?
That was for Scotland to win at 150 to 1.
And they were right because it didn't happen. Just, but
yeah, fair. That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
Anyway, let's just run through this game and try and get our heads around what's happened. I mean, first off, it was a wet and blustery day. Some things to bet. First off, a hat tip to Ben Youngs, 85th cap today. He's the most capped English scrum half ever. So congratulations, sir. I'm sure you're watching. To put some context around what happened in the first half hour, at least, Scotland have used 37 players this Six Nations over 5 games, and that is a crazy number of changes, mainly down to injury, of course.
That's ridiculous, actually. Yeah, I didn't realise it was that high. I had counted at one point 15 injuries to what. I mean, obviously there's arguments about what would be a starting 23, but what would be a reasonable starting 23. There was 15 injuries to that group, basically. So yeah, to actually have 37 different players, that puts it in a different context, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what Gregor Townsend said. Now, whether that's 37 that would come in and out of camp or not, or whether that was 37 that actually been in game days, I'm not sure. So I'll be honest, I missed the first try because I was doing post-match reaction to the Wales versus Ireland game, and it all. From watching the replay, some wonderful running lines by England to attract defenders, to create space for Slade to make ground out wide down the right hand side. Then he gives it out to Nowell, who then steps inside 3 players to score. That must have been pretty much from the kickoff because it was after less than 2 minutes, around about 2 minutes. An amazing start by England, and the crowd erupted at that point.
Yeah, that was it was classic England, actually. Scoring after, I think, what is it? I can't remember the stat at the beginning of the Six Nations. I think it was, but it's something like 7 of the last 11 games they'd scored in the first 90 seconds. And as a Scotland fan, that was exactly what we didn't want, really. So England got off to a flyer. To be honest, there were so many tries in the game, I can't really remember actually what who scored what when.
I don't do this from memory, by the way, folks. This is Here's the notes from the game. This is how how it's done.
Very professional. I have no such notes. I lost my mind during that game, so I can't claim any such. Yeah.
We followed that up with a line-out maul, which is where I joined the game. Vunipola didn't even have to jump for the ball, which does sort of question mark the either wonderful deception or they caught the Scottish line-out napping there, and then Curry scored at the back of that ruck. Owen Farrell had his normal perfect kicking day, so suddenly it's 14-0, even though it was out wide. And it wasn't just England playing well. Scotland were making errors as well. We had Russell kicking it out in the full, which then led to a quick line out, which means that Russell's suddenly deep in the 22 trying to run away from May, and that's not going to happen. So it didn't. these kicks out in the full and not into the stands or not onto grass and letting quick lineouts happen. Scotland were making errors. It wasn't just England playing well in this in the first half hour, was it?
Completely, yeah. It was a catalogue of errors really from Scotland. They were first half was immensely disappointing, if I'm honest. I was as I mentioned to you before we went on air here. I was almost going to cry off this interview because felt there was no point in doing it. It would have been too embarrassing. But it was Scotland were, as you said, kicking out in the full, knocking it on, missing tackles. The defensive structure was all over the place, and it just looked like it was going to be an absolute hammering. Yeah.
So just ready after that. I mean, we're still only less than 10 minutes into the game, but Genshin has a big carry. He offloads to Sinclair, who makes a good break into Launchbury, and much more kind of a backs attack by forwards there. Saw Launchbury go under the posts. Suddenly it's 21 nil.
Magnificent footing that, yeah. It was really Ellis Genge who nearly ran over Maitland. I thought Maitland did quite well to almost wrap him up, but then the English clear out was fantastic, and then as you said, Launchbury was straight in the corner. So it was it's again effortless basically.
21 points after 12 minutes. We're scoring at more than point a minute at this point. And there are England fans dreaming of an 80-0 victory. I'll be honest. On 20 minutes, it could have been worse because Daly, there was a bit of a poor kick. Daly runs it back, goes to Nell, puts the kick through, and some great hassling work. I missed which the Scottish defender was on Youngs, which just makes Youngs knock on in the in-goal area.
Yeah,
that could very well that could easily have been 28 points at that point. But I say he knocks it on, so there's a try disallowed there. But England are like, hey, it's no problem. We've got this one under control. At that point, they go 19 phases, get a penalty, and Farrell decides to kick a penalty, kick posts. I thought it was a bit of a strange decision at that point. I thought they would have gone for the corner.
Yeah, likewise. I felt that was a massive let-off, to be honest. As I said, when you're staring down the barrel of what is looking like I don't even know how many points it was going to look like at that stage, but 3 points instead of 7 looks pretty good. I was quite surprised they took that, but maybe it was just to give everybody a break because they were running so hard.
They were, and players were looking tired in the second half. I mean, this was a game played at a lot of pace. Just as a kind of side note, Farrell passed 400 points in the Six Nations at that point.
I did.
So congratulations to him there. And then to finish things off, Scotland are in England's 22. There's an intercept, and England get down the other end. Scotland then intercept it, but Curry then turns it over. There's a penalty. Yeah. They take a quick tap, pass it out and Slade puts May over. And I thought Slade, the commentators talking about, Slade could have gone in, run it in himself. He could have done, but then he'd been right in the corner by putting it inside to May. That brings the kick across 5 or 10 metres, making it a much easier kick. So, again, good composure at that point. When things are going well, it's easy to have composure for those sort of plays, as we're going to talk about later, that lack of composure.
Well, exactly, yeah.
But that put England up 31-0 after 28 minutes.
28 minutes, was it 31-0? Wow, there we go. Yeah, England were. Yeah, I felt like they were almost. I thought inside pass was Slade almost showing off, to be honest. Which, at that stage they had every right to do because it was embarrassing. But yeah, as you say, maybe there was that bit of composure as well to take the line out, take the conversion slightly further in. It was an impressive piece of, I don't know, reading from both players for Slade to drift out and May to drift in. They must. I don't know if they practiced that in training, but they seem to read each other's minds there. It was pretty impressive.
It was, yeah, absolutely. And so I say 31 points after 28 minutes. We're still going at more than point a minute. And let's be honest, everybody at this point believes the game is over, which with what's to come really
by rights it is over.
Don't switch off early. Sorry?
Yeah, they said by rights it is over. I mean,
yep.
Yeah, as you said, this continue from here. Yeah.
Now we head on into well, it's been crazy land so far one way. It's about to get it's a, and to be honest, it didn't kind of flip at this point, but England did get charged down. McInally for a hooker shows some great pace to keep himself clear of May and Daly, I think it was, or Farrell, to score under the posts. Which was a great, I say, a really lucky a really good pace there to gather that and score to give Scotland something ahead of half time, which is what they really needed from a morale point of view.
Yeah, 100%. I'd literally just sent a text to some friends saying pre-match I was hoping for anything under 20 points. I would have taken a 20-point deficit to Scotland. I would have taken as a win basically. So getting that try just before half time really made it would have made a bit of difference to that scoreline. So yeah it was. But McInally was as you say, showed great pace. It was Farrell and Johnny May. I don't know what Johnny May was doing. He almost seemed to decide not to tackle him in the end. But it was he showed great strength and pace to get it under the posts.
And from there, it wasn't really till the second half that Scotland really actually turned things around. That was against the run of play, because after that we had Scotland kicking out in the full when they're taking it back into their 22.
And then they had Russell missing touch with a penalty just before half time. They could have kicked it out at that stage. I don't know. Yeah, and anybody would have.
England turned down 3 just before half time, went to the corner, which they could have done. The Maul got stopped. They had a penalty. Russell then misses touch. England run it back, and also Russell, as you say, could have touched it out and finished. Could have kicked it out and ended things, but no, he tried to kick. He tried to go for territory and to try and get some more points. England run it back, and Scotland actually get lucky because England knock it on in their 22. That was there's some real questionable decision making by both sides there. I think they both got a bit hassled and a bit harried by the occasion because with time up, England should have just taken the 3. Gone into half time at 34-7 ahead. Got that. Getting that final score before half time makes a big difference from a morale point, from a mentality point of view. And I say both sides lost their heads at that point.
Yeah, 100%. Although I would say England, when you're 31-7 up, it's really not necessary to get a final score by half time. I think they should, they could have just put the ball out, to be honest. And likewise with Scotland, I don't know what Russell was doing, aiming for quite such an adventurous touch finder, but just a quick tap and then put it out would have been fine.
So Gregor Townsend said something at half time, clearly, and we need to find out what it was, because this is where things did change. I mean, I hate the old cliches, but yes, a game of two halves and all of that kind of stuff. I say Scotland's try in that first half was against the run of play. It wasn't from a great sort of fantastic play by McInally, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't from a wonderful attacking piece of play or anything. Come out the second half, Scotland much better. Their defence is holding up. They're managing to turn over England. They managed to find grass with their kicks rather than players, and everything looks a bit more calmer. Everything's more structured. Looks much more under control. They got a bit lucky as well, which also helps me. England having Farrell, Slade, and Daly means that they can switch sides and still have a very good kicker. Daly's kick just went that bit long, went dead, which gave Scotland the platform for their for their next try. A good set of phases off the scrum, some wonderful offloading by the backs, puts Darcy in the corner, but as he dances around a couple of players, it was. Everyone's like, oh well, the comeback. Oh well, congratulations, Scotland got a consolation try at that point, is what people are thinking. But some great feat by Darcy.
Yeah, Darcy Graham is. I've been calling for him to start for a long time, or at least the Six Nations. Actually, he's as you say, he's got great feet. He's not the biggest winger, but he's got great pace and great feet, as you say. So he went in the corner, but it was just as you said, it was a very different even from the kickoff, Scotland looked different. A little, just as you say, a bit more composure. They just looked like they were a bit more patient, basically. Because well, if you take a step back again, I thought Scotland over the whole of the Six Nations looked like they were panicking a little bit and quite often rushed a lot of their plays. But in this, in this second half, they certainly just sort of played the percentages a bit more, I think, and definitely took the time and got the results.
And playing heads at rugby, because in Price then chips it
Heads up,
over
it's
into
safe.
space, collects the ball, the and manages to. I mean, Farrell comes running up to try and tackle him, but he runs sideways on the pitch. He realises he's got no support yet, so holds the ball up well rather than trying to charge towards space. Finds I've gone blank Bradbury on a fantastic line,
Yeah,
and who goes over under the posts, and that was a score that really shook England. And at that point, England then started to panic and lose their heads. And at 49 minutes, suddenly it's 31-19. And I tweeted at that point, "Wow, what were the odds on the Scotland win at half time?" That was where it started to click and go, "Oh, this could be fun." Or in a well, not necessarily for an Englishman, but yeah, that's where to me the game suddenly got interesting.
yeah, 100%. But I said at half time, as a Scotland fan, you've always got to look for the optimism, for the unlikely outcomes in every situation. And at half time, I said, you know what, 2 tries and this could be interesting because that would have made it a 10-point game. Obviously, they missed a couple of conversions, so it made it. I think it was a 12-point game or something. But it was definitely, as you say, it started to definitely put the question mark there that the result definitely wasn't. The game wasn't dead yet.
Yep. 56 minutes, so 10 minutes after that. So in 10 minutes we get 3 tries. Scotland show that they can really showing they can play here. This isn't. I mean, the other ones came about by the Bradbury one definitely was from a bit of individual brilliance, but sideline from one sideline to the other, they played across the pitch. Russ with a long floated pass to find again Darcy in space on the opposite wing this time to his other try. Goes in for the score. Suddenly it's 31-24. 3 minutes later, so basically from the restart, Russell intercepts a Farrell pass, goes under the post, and it's 31-31 after an hour of play. I mean, what was the point in the first hour of play apart from just to get hearts racing and give people heart attacks?
I know. I think that's the. I mean, yeah. As I say, as a Scotland fan, you're always looking for the optimism, but you're also looking. There's always a way for Scotland to screw it up at some point. And when Russell went under the post, suddenly, rather than thinking this is going to be an incredible comeback, you're thinking how is Scotland going to lose it from here? And I just think Russell's been. Russell has good days and bad days. This is undoubtedly a good day, and he read the pass brilliantly, and as you say, went under the post. But that was starting to believe at that stage.
And England had fallen apart during that part. Scotland played very well. Don't get me wrong to score it, but the pressure they'd applied to England meant that England lost their heads. And things calmed down a little bit after that for a while, as both sides kicked for territory. Both sides suddenly realised, hang on, the last thing we want to do is play any rugby on our own half, and we ended up with a period of both sides just kicking for territory, trying to gain territory, and it all went sort of quiet until we had the moment that we're going to see clips of all over the internet and on Twitter and Facebook, and Farrell is going to keep himself off all social media for the next month, as he caught Darcy with a shoulder just after he'd kicked. The referee initially played on, but then reviewed it and came back for a penalty for that. Go on then. Let's hear your views on the Farrell hit.
When you look at it in real, I think it was a penalty. I mean, probably fair. Obviously the Scotland fan who really want to say, he should have had a yellow card and should have been off, but he was running up, and I think he tried to duck out of it at the end, probably. if you want to be cynical, and there will be people who are cynical about it, they'll say that, it's Farrell, and he timed it such that he ducked his shoulder at the end and hit him late. And there is an element of that, I suppose. He didn't try and charge it down. There was no kind of like hands up to try and charge it down, but at the same time, he did kind of look like he was running up to make a tackle and then just kind of ducked out of it. So it's probably fair. But I think you could have definitely been a yellow, and obviously I don't think England could have any complaints. But at the same time, I don't think Scotland can really. It's one of those marginal ones. What did you think?
I was going to say, he clearly tucks his arm in, so it is a shoulder. I wouldn't say it was particularly late. I think it was just after the kick, so I don't think he could have stopped himself from that. I think he did get a bit lucky. I think that could very easily have been yellow. And I think we saw the fact that he got hooked very soon after that, that Eddie Jones thought he'd lost his head. And one of the things I was on a podcast with the Maul Over podcast earlier this year, and we were talking about Farrell, and I said, I don't like him being captain for two reasons. One, if my kicker already does extra work of training than anyone else does, so why give him the extra time he has to do for all the press conferences as a captain? That's just too much of a load on a player, on a person, rather than a player. And the other thing is, I think he just lacks that control at times, and he tends to lose his head. On the
Agreed,
whole, on the whole, this Six Nations giving him the captaincy has meant he's actually been more controlled and not lost his head. But in this case, I think he, a bit like Mike Brown can sometimes, their passion is part of their play, and without that, they're not as good players. But they tend to go over the line.
Agreed. I think it's an interesting point you make actually about the time taken out of his routine, especially as a kicker in pre-match interviews and stuff. That's actually something I hadn't thought of before. But yeah, definitely agreed that he can at times lose his head, and in these England a very good side and usually will win most games, and therefore when they're up, Farrell plays very well. Nothing to see here basically. But in these kind of type games, and you saw it, I think you've seen it in South Africa in the autumn, I think, in the tight games, and then obviously I think the last time I remember, the one that stands out for me is the Australia game during the World Cup last year. In those tight games he does lose his head, and those are the games that really matter. Nobody cares about the games when England win by miles. It's the games when it's really tight that matters, and he does sometimes lose his head a bit.
So I thought it was telling that Eddie Jones pulled him and put Ford on at that point. Laidlaw missed a kick. Now that one, the two conversions that had been missed earlier were by Russell, not by Laidlaw. But so it was, there was definitely a sigh of relief at my end from that, him missing that one. But then England players get their allocations wrong. Johnson hits a wonderful gap. I can't remember who released him, but then he steps around now, and Daly really just gets himself again, all in the wrong place, and so that Johnson goes over under the posts.
Yeah, that's I guess, as I say, that's the point at which I'm really starting to believe. There's very few points in a game as a Scotland fan when you feel the game is safe, and it's at 4 minutes to go, 7 points up. I started I think this game at the very minimum would be a draw at that stage. So it was, it is interesting how the psychology, how, as you say, the England got their allocations wrong and just got a bit of a muddle basically, and it's. As you said, you don't want to go into cliches, but in a game of two halves, Scotland were clinical in the second half, in much the same way that England were in the first half.
And that was a set move. That's kind of a move off the training ground. When I say allocations got wrong, that means you've got other players in motion that are potential ball carriers that defenders are having to keep an eye on. And basically, that time, the two players outside him were covered, but the guy coming back inside didn't cover, and that's where someone didn't slide across like they should have done. So that's that's what I'm talking about at that point. I must admit the draw wasn't on my mind at that point, and the person that I would love to have had a camera on the wall of is G Love. If you haven't seen seen him on Twitter, follow G Love. He's got some fantastic videos. is perhaps a tad anti-English at times, but his hype train especially videos especially are hilarious, and I'm sure he would have been bouncing off the walls at this stage.
Saw some of his tweets during the game, and he was, yeah, he went block capitals from about 68 minutes onwards, I think. So I think that says something in itself. Basically, he was bouncing off the walls. I think it's fair to say.
Then, the times. I'll be honest. It wasn't until the clock had run out that it actually twigged on me that a draw was most likely outcome, which shows you how how kind of I'd lost the plot myself.
Yeah,
England got into that 22. Scotland were giving up repeat penalty advantages, and the obviously 3 points wasn't going to be enough, so they were more than happy to, or they were not more than happy. But you can understand why players were putting themselves in positions that were saying, right, I'm not going to allow a try at all costs here, and giving up those advantages. That meant though that England could try things, and eventually Ford danced through, and went under the post. But we had that was on 83 minutes. So we had at least 3 to 4 minutes worth of pressure in the Scotland 22 that was required to find that opening. The Scotland defence, from the first half being very porous to the second half, was very good to hold England out for that long. And then suddenly it was a draw at 38 all. And a lot of us were like, what has just happened, basically, I think, as you can tell.
yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, as you said, as soon as England started making ground up the pitch, it did have. I must admit, it had a crushing air of inevitability about it. But to be honest, a draw is a phenomenal result for Scotland in Twickenham. I know people will say we should have won it, and arguably we should have. But at the same time, pre-match, I think if somebody had said you're going to draw 38 all, then 100% I would have taken that.
So if anyone said after half an hour you're going to be 31 points down, and you don't lose, that's just
exactly. I mean, yeah.
It's a crazy game, and we got some crazy stats from it as well. So after that, congratulations to Wales for their victory. They managed to do that with about 120, 110, 120 metres running with ball in hand. In this game, England was 668 metres running with ball in hand, and Scotland 446. When you've got a combined total over 1,000 metres of running with ball in hand, you know you've had an open, free-flowing game, and it's been fun to watch.
That's ridiculous. I didn't realise it was as much as that, actually. That is, I mean, yeah, well, yeah, as you say, nothing more can be said. Almost 80 points in the game. That's ridiculous in itself.
14 clean breaks by England, 7 by Scotland. So clearly England finished some of those off in the first half. But England let themselves down on turnovers. 18 turnovers conceded compared to 11 by Scotland. And one that you're not going to believe, England had 1 scrum all game. Scotland had 7 scrums in that game, which shows you that the ball handling by Scotland was very good.
Yeah, that is quite impressive, actually, because usually Scotland's hands aren't the best.
The line-outs, 16 to England, which they won all of them, 9 to Scotland with just the 1 loss. So again, you can see that Scotland were kicking the ball out quite a bit. And in that first half, under pressure, there were lots of exit kicks, trying to get out of their own half that led to that. And surprisingly for two sides that, and I guess you'd expect it with that many points, but England only 72% tackle success rate, and Scotland 80%. At this level, those percentages are way down on what is considered acceptable. So some real question marks around the defence in this game.
Yeah, that's quite surprising, actually. I saw stats at half time. It did say that England had missed 24 tackles out of 80, or something around those, and it was that's actually I expected that Scotland would have missed a few given their first half stats, but I was surprised at half time that England had missed so many as well.
So which players stood out for you?
Oh wow! Well, obviously, I mean, man of the match, Finn Russell. But the first half he was I think we had two different Finn Russells, which we normally don't see in one match. Actually, normally he's pretty consistent throughout. But I think in the second half, his control and his kicking and running and just general, he looked like he had a lot of time in the ball, and he just looked like he was patient and played. He looked like he had time. That's what was surprising. In the first half, everything Scotland did looked so frantic, like they were desperate. They're obviously when you're 31-0 down, you're chasing the game to an extent. But after in the second half, he looked like he actually, he was quite patient and played, he just played some good running rugby basically.
Some players for Scotland that are not first choice. Bradbury is not first choice in the back row. 18 carries is a phenomenal, if I can say the word, effort. Johnson and Gree, again, not first choice in the centres, or Darcy for that matter. So in that back line. And I think Johnson and Darcy had two good games for Darcy Graham for me.
Yeah, Darcy Graham agreed is definitely a player for the future. He's very young. I think he's only 20 years old actually, and obviously he's pretty slight build. So I think he's being weaned slowly into the international scene. But this game will have done him. No little favour, basically. I think, and most of the Scotland side, actually. I was dreading this game for quite a long time, especially as our injury list mounted, and so I think especially as you say, with all these new players and all these players who were not first choice, certainly put their hand up as contenders for a World Cup squad.
On the defensive side, Tullis got through a lot of work with 20 tackles. Hamish Watson, someone who I was looking forward to seeing carrying the ball. But defensively, 17 tackles, so he got through a lot of work defensively. But attacking-wise, this wasn't his day, unlike against Wales.
I don't think anybody's ever had a day like Hamish Watson did against Wales, basically. I think I read somewhere that he, in his 22 minutes in that match, he made the most clean breaks by a Scottish player ever in the Six Nations, and the sixth most ever of any team. In a quarter of the match. So I think if you're judging him on those standards, that's maybe a little bit unfair. I thought he did look quite good. He beat a few guys and he made some ground. But yeah, as you say, his defensive work was obviously the maybe the important thing that he did today.
Launchbury and Cruis, I felt from England, I thought were in the locks. They got through a bunch of work defensively, and also with ball in hand. I thought they showed good hands, the two of them. In this game, 9 carries by Cruis, 3, including that try, obviously, by Launchbury. So I thought those guys, the engine room generally don't get mentioned in these kind of things, but I thought they both stepped up. And everyone's waxing lyrical about Tom Curry, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, every time every time Scotland had the ball and went into a ruck, my brother sitting out there was shouting, get Curry out, because as soon as he got over the ball, it looked like it was going to be a turnover. And sure enough, he did actually, he did affect a few turnovers actually. So he just looks dangerous all the time, even in defence, he looks dangerous.
On the attacking side of the ball, both Jack Nowell and Johnny May and Elliot Daly for the back three. All got involved a lot with 15 plus tackles each. 15 plus carries each, which is a lot of work. Which shows that England spun this ball wide, and also they came looking for work as well. England played with a lot of expanse this time. Vunipola, I got through a bunch of work, but I thought he was pretty much well handled on the whole by Scotland. 14 carries, but for 43 metres. So. But yeah, I thought it was England's outside backs that I thought had a good day today. On the whole.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if I was Eddie Jones, I wouldn't really say. I just say, obviously it's not a great result, and you won't want to dwell on it. But realistically, England won't really think about it too much. I'd say after this, after a few weeks, because they've had a good Six Nations, they played very well. They went to sleep in the second half. I think, as you say, England, by most standards, there were a few games to forget today, but generally they weren't too bad. So I think England's back three, especially the finishing. Johnny May's finishing at the moment is phenomenal.
Cool. Any final thoughts on the whole of the Six Nations you want to?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think a lot of people have given actually, you said this is actually quite a negative Grand Slam from Wales, and there's an element of that, I suppose, in the way that they didn't actually score that many bonus points. They didn't get any bonus points, I don't think, actually. They didn't score 4 tries in any match. But I've already read a very interesting article about how defence wins you matches and wins you titles, and Wales's defence was phenomenal. And I think that actually goes a long way to winning these games. And so I don't think that you can really put too much stock in saying that Wales didn't score many tries. They won all their games, so they deserve to win. To be honest, England looked very, very dangerous. I've got to say they obviously did score a lot of tries. Perhaps a little bit one-dimensional at times, especially in the game against Wales. But if they can sort their tactics out against different teams, then they will be a force to be reckoned with in the World Cup. Ireland were probably the Six Nations to forget, I'd say. But the way they played last year, I don't think anybody can really rule them out at this stage. And as a Scotland fan, I would say, yeah, Scotland's Six Nations was pretty poor, to be honest, up until this last 40 minutes. If they get their players back, I'd like to think they can get back to sort of the kind of standards they've had in the past couple of years. So hopefully, they can. They've obviously finished on a high, which is a good way to finish the tournament. And if they can get some players back, then they can kick on in the summer, and everybody can hopefully compete at the World Cup. What were your thoughts?
And let's be honest, so for Wales, you don't win 14 games on the trot by accident. They are a very good side, sure. And I'm just trying to bring it up to see if I can see how many tries they did score. But I know going into this game that they'd scored the same number of tries as Italy. I don't know. I didn't actually watch the Italy-France game. So if Italy scored 2 tries or more, then they will have scored more tries than Wales in this one, and yet lost 5 games. But that's not the point.
We aren't 1 try.
1 try. So Wales and Italy have scored the same number of tries in this tournament, but it's not about scoring tries. It's about winning games. And as you say, defence wins championships, and this Welsh side is a very, very good Welsh side. Ireland clearly not on form, and very frustrated with things. You just see that in Sexton's face, that they're frustrated that things that they're trying to do aren't coming off. Now, whether that's just a temporary form blip, or whether they've been figured out, we'll have to wait and see. I don't think we can learn much about Scotland in this championship because of the number of injured players that they've had, and assuming that they don't have this injury list going into the Rugby World Cup, you're gonna be fine going forwards. England, yep, they have a plan A, which is a great kicking game, and we saw some good some good attacking play today in that first half, but then it suddenly got switched off in that second. So England much improved, and when they got their first choice team, they are a decent side they'll challenge anybody. And we saw it in November and this Six Nations. When they have a few injuries, it's a different ball game entirely. And just like we've seen with Scotland, England had that bad year last year, or that bad sort of Six Nations and South Africa tour, when they didn't have their players. And for all the talk of they've got more professional players than any other country in the world, at the top end they don't have the depth of a New Zealand or whatever. So they need to keep their players fit. And clearly that Lions tour wore out that England squad. Is my view. So thank you very much. Why don't you let people know where they can get your algorithmic predictions and all of that kind of stuff?
So you follow me on Twitter at Rugby Forecast. Likewise, we're on Facebook, the same handle, or you can visit the website, which is rugbyforecast.co.uk or .com. I always forget which one it is, but that's Rugby 4 with a number 4 rather than a FORE. So if you can find us there.
Or even FOUR. So Rugby 4 CAST, Rugby Forecast CAST. Thank you very much for joining me. Hi, I've been obviously been Paul DrivingMaul. Up there will be the way to subscribe to the channel. Obviously, many more rugby live stream shows during the week, and also post-match reactions. Down there is how you can subscribe to Patreon, and that's how you support me so that I can produce this content, provide all this content for you guys for free. Plus, there's also exclusive content on there just for my Patrons or members. They can ask me about any topic, and I will do them a video on that every single week. Plus, you get to see the business behind the scenes and what business side is going on as well on DrivingMaul. And over there are 2 videos that the YouTube artificial intelligence say will absolutely adore. So give them a watch too.